Fear is a natural and inevitable part of life, woven into the fabric of our existence. From the earliest moments of our lives, fear presents itself as a primal instinct, an emotion that has evolved to protect us. It warns us of dangers, both real and imagined, and urges us to be cautious in unfamiliar or threatening situations. This natural response has helped humanity survive throughout history, alerting us to avoid peril and encouraging us to make decisions that preserve our well-being. But while fear has its place in our lives, it is important to recognize that it does not have to be a limitation. In fact, the very presence of fear offers opportunities for growth, resilience, and the development of courage. Fear can manifest in countless forms. It may arise from physical threats, such as the fear of being harmed or the fear of death. More commonly, though, it stems from psychological and emotional concerns, the fear of failure, rejection, or uncertainty. We fear the unknown because it challenges the comfortable patterns and routines we have built. Fear can even arise from success, as we question whether we are capable of maintaining a higher standard or fulfilling new responsibilities. Whatever its source, fear has a way of creeping into our minds, distorting our perception, and making obstacles appear larger than they are. However, fear is not inherently negative. It is, in essence, neutral and internal alarm system triggered by unfamiliar or potentially harmful situations. What determines its impact on our lives is how we choose to respond to it. We often hear the phrase, "Do not be afraid," as if fear is something we must eliminate. But eliminating fear entirely is neither realistic nor necessary. The key is not to be fearless, but to understand that fear is a natural part of life and that it does not have to dictate our actions or limit our potential. When we view fear as a limitation, we give it more power than it deserves. It becomes an excuse to avoid challenges or risks, a reason to stay within our comfort zones. The fear of failure can prevent us from pursuing new opportunities, applying for that dream job, or starting a project we're passionate about. The fear of rejection may stop us from forming meaningful relationships or expressing our true selves. Fear of the unknown might hold us back from embracing change, even when that change could lead to personal growth or fulfillment. But these limitations are self-imposed. Fear does not actually have the power to stop us unless we allow it to. The barriers it creates are mental, not physical. Once we recognize this, we begin to understand that we are capable of much more than we might think. Fear, in its natural form, is simply a warning, a signal to proceed with caution. It is not an insurmountable wall, but a hurdle we can learn to navigate. It reminds us that we are stepping into unfamiliar territory, and in doing so, it offers us a choice. We can either retreat or move forward. Choosing to move forward in the face of fear is where growth happens. Fear, when embraced, can become a powerful motivator. It sharpens our focus, heightens our awareness, and pushes us to prepare more thoroughly for the challenges ahead. Think of an athlete standing on the starting line of a race, their heart pounding, the fear of losing or failing present in their mind. That fear, rather than paralyzing them, fuels their determination to perform their best. Similarly, a student taking an important exam or an artist presenting their work to the public may feel the grip of fear. But instead of letting it cripple them, they channel it into a source of energy and drive. In many ways, fear is a mirror reflecting our deepest desires and aspirations. We fear failure because we care about succeeding. We fear rejection because connection and acceptance are important to us. We fear the unknown because we desire stability and certainty. Understanding this relationship allows us to reframe our fears as signals of what we value most rather than as barriers to be avoided. This shift in perspective transforms fear from something to be ashamed of into something that enhances our journey through life. When we push through fear, we discover our true strength and resilience. Facing fear head-on builds confidence. Each time we overcome a fear, no matter how small, we expand our sense of what we are capable of. Over time, this accumulation of victories over fear strengthens our character. We become less likely to be held back by self-doubt and more willing to take calculated risks. Importantly, confronting fear also builds emotional resilience. Life will inevitably throw challenges our way, but by learning to navigate fear, we become better equipped to handle adversity and uncertainty. Some of the greatest achievements in history were accomplished by people who felt fear but did not let it limit them. Innovators, leaders, artists, and everyday people who dared to step into the unknown have changed the course of the world. They did not eliminate fear from their lives. Instead, they accepted it as part of the journey. Fear became their companion, not their captor. Ultimately, fear is a natural and essential part of life, but it is not meant to hold us back. When we acknowledge fear for what it is, a protective instinct rather than an impenetrable barrier, we open ourselves to new possibilities. Fear is not something to be avoided or denied, but embraced as a companion on our path toward growth. It reminds us that we are alive, that we care, and that we are standing on the edge of something important. And when we push beyond that edge, we find that fear is not a limitation, but a doorway to our greatest potential. Courage is often misunderstood. Many people believe that to be courageous means to be free from fear, to stand tall and unshaken in the face of danger or uncertainty. However, the reality is quite different. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the ability to act despite feeling fear. It is about moving forward with conviction, even when fear whispers in your ear that you should turn back. In fact, fear is a crucial component of courage. Without fear, courage would not exist, for courage is the choice to persist and take action in situations where fear is present and real. At its core, fear is a natural instinctive response. It has evolved in human beings as a survival mechanism, alerting us to potential dangers. Whether the fear comes from external threats or internal doubts, its purpose is to protect us. Yet not all fear is rational, and much of it is rooted in our perception of risk rather than actual danger. The key distinction between those who are courageous and those who are not is not that one group feels less fear, rather, the courageous choose to act regardless of their fear. They acknowledge the fear, understand it, and continue forward. To better understand this concept, it's helpful to think about everyday examples of courage. Imagine a person who is afraid of public speaking, but who nonetheless steps up to give a presentation or speak in front of a crowd. Their fear doesn't vanish the moment they start speaking, it may be there the entire time. What defines their courage is the decision to face that fear and act, despite the discomfort. Their voice may tremble, their palms may sweat, but they are still courageous because they refuse to let fear dictate their actions. In this way, courage becomes a deliberate choice rather than a feeling. This concept can be applied to every aspect of life, from small, personal fears to larger challenges that seem overwhelming. The fear of failure often holds people back from pursuing their dreams, whether it's starting a new business, going back to school, or entering a new career path. But courage is what pushes them to take that first step, knowing that failure is a possibility, but refusing to let it stop them. Many of the most successful people in the world have shared that their achievements came not because they were fearless, but because they had the courage to take risks, fail, and try again. Courage is, at its heart, an act of faith in oneself, even when the outcome is uncertain. Courage also plays a crucial role in interpersonal relationships and emotional resilience. It takes courage to be vulnerable, to open up to others, and to trust them with your true self. Many people are afraid of rejection, of being hurt, or of losing someone they care about. Fear tells them to protect themselves by staying guarded, by not letting anyone get too close, but courage says, I will risk being hurt because connection is worth it. This type of emotional courage is just as important as the courage to face external challenges. It allows us to form deeper, more meaningful relationships, and it makes us resilient in the face of emotional hardship. In times of crisis, we often look to those who act courageously as beacons of hope. Think of first responders running into a burning building, knowing full well the danger they face. Or soldiers who go to war, doctors who treat patients in the midst of a deadly epidemic, or everyday citizens who stand up against injustice. These people are not immune to fear. They feel it just as deeply as anyone else. But what sets them apart is their ability to harness that fear, to push past it, and to act for the greater good. This kind of courage has a ripple effect. When one person acts courageously, it can inspire others to do the same, creating a chain reaction of brave actions. Another important aspect of courage is that it is not always about grand gestures or dramatic acts. Sometimes courage is quiet and personal. It's the person who battles anxiety but still leaves the house each day to face the world. It's the individual who stands up for their beliefs in a room full of dissenting voices, even if they are shaking inside. It's the person who chooses to forgive even when the pain is deep. These acts of courage, though small in scale, are no less significant. They require the same ability to act in the presence of fear, and they demonstrate the depth and strength of human character. Courage also grows with practice. Each time we confront our fears and act despite them, we build our capacity for courage. It is like exercising a muscle. The more we use it, the stronger it becomes. This is why many people who regularly engage in acts of bravery, whether in their personal or professional lives, seem to carry an air of confidence. They have trained themselves to face fear head on, to become familiar with it, and to move through it. This is not to say that the fear ever goes away completely, but it becomes more manageable, less of a roadblock, and more of a companion on the journey. Ultimately, courage is a choice. It is the decision to act in the presence of fear, not in the absence of it. Fear will always be a part of life. It is a fundamental human experience, but it does not have to control our actions or determine our future. When we choose to be courageous, we choose to live a life of purpose and possibility rather than one limited by fear. We give ourselves the opportunity to grow, to learn, and to achieve things we once thought impossible. Courage, then, is not just about heroism or dramatic feats. It is about the quiet, consistent decision to move forward, one step at a time, in the face of fear. Fear is often viewed as something negative, a feeling to be avoided or suppressed. It is seen as a barrier that holds us back from achieving our goals or experiencing life fully. Yet, fear can actually be one of the most powerful catalysts for personal growth. Rather than something to be feared in itself, it is a force that can push us out of our comfort zones, challenge our limitations, and ultimately lead us to grow in ways we may never have imagined. Fear, when embraced and understood, is not an obstacle but an opportunity. To grow, we must be willing to confront and embrace the unknown. Growth inherently involves change, and change is often accompanied by fear. The reason for this is simple. Humans are creatures of habit. We find comfort in routine and security in the familiar. However, growth requires us to venture into new territories, whether in our personal, professional, or emotional lives. The moment we step into the unknown, fear often arises. It is a natural response, triggered by our brain's desire to protect us from perceived danger. Yet, while fear can serve as a warning system, it also signals moments when we are on the verge of expanding our capabilities. Fear, then, is a signpost on the road to growth. When we feel fear, it is often because we are standing on the edge of something that matters deeply to us. The fear of failure arises when we care about success. The fear of rejection emerges when connection and acceptance are important to us. The fear of change surfaces because we know that with change comes the possibility of losing control or being thrust into unfamiliar situations. Yet, in all of these instances, it is fear that forces us to confront what we value, and in doing so, allows us to grow toward those values. Consider, for example, the fear of failure. Many people avoid pursuing their goals because they are afraid they will fail. This fear can be paralyzing, leading to procrastination or even the abandonment of dreams. However, if we can shift our perspective and see failure as part of the learning process, fear of failure becomes a stepping stone rather than a roadblock. Failure, when embraced, offers invaluable lessons. Each mistake made, each setback experience provides feedback that helps us improve and adapt. Fear of failure pushes us to prepare more thoroughly, to think more critically, and to hone our skills. Over time, we learn that failure is not something to be feared, but a necessary component of success. Similarly, the fear of rejection can be a powerful source of growth. Whether in relationships in the workplace or in social situations, the fear of being rejected can make us hesitate to take risks or express our true selves. We worry that others will not accept us, that we will be judged, or that we will be left out. However, it is often through the experience of rejection that we develop resilience and self-awareness. Rejection teaches us that our worth is not dependent on the approval of others. It forces us to reflect on who we are and what we truly want, rather than constantly seeking validation from external sources. The fear of rejection pushes us to build confidence in ourselves and to embrace authenticity, knowing that we cannot control how others perceive us, but can always control how we perceive ourselves. One of the most profound ways in which fear can promote growth is by encouraging us to confront our limitations. Many of our fears are based on limiting beliefs, ideas we hold about ourselves that dictate what we are capable of achieving. These beliefs often form early in life and can be difficult to shake. For example, someone may fear public speaking because they believe they are not articulate enough, or someone might fear pursuing a new career because they doubt their own competence. However, these fears, if faced, have the potential to completely transform our self-perception. When we push ourselves to do things that scare us, we begin to dismantle these limiting beliefs. Each time we succeed in a situation where fear was present, we prove to ourselves that we are more capable than we once thought. Over time, this builds self-efficacy, the belief in our ability to overcome challenges and achieve our goals. The more we face our fears, the more we expand our sense of what is possible for us. This is where true growth happens, at the intersection of fear and action. In addition to personal growth, fear can also foster emotional growth. Emotions like fear, anxiety, and uncertainty often come to the surface during times of change or challenge. While these emotions can be uncomfortable, they offer an opportunity for emotional development. When we learn to sit with fear rather than run from it, we begin to cultivate emotional resilience. We realize that fear, like all emotions, is temporary, and that we have the capacity to feel fear without being consumed by it. This emotional resilience makes us better equipped to handle the ups and downs of life, as we learn to navigate our feelings without being controlled by them. Moreover, fear can lead to growth in relationships. Vulnerability, which is often accompanied by fear, is essential for forming deep, meaningful connections with others. When we are afraid to show our true selves, we build walls that prevent others from truly knowing us. However, when we face our fear of vulnerability and allow ourselves to be seen, we open the door to authentic connection. This is true in romantic relationships, friendships, and even professional partnerships. The willingness to be vulnerable, despite the fear of being hurt or misunderstood, fosters intimacy and trust. In the end, fear can be a powerful tool for growth if we learn to embrace it. It is not something to be avoided or suppressed, but understood and harnessed. Fear signals moments of potential transformation, guiding us toward areas of our lives that require attention, change, or development. By stepping into our fears rather than shying away from them, we allow ourselves to grow beyond our perceived limitations and to realize our full potential. Fear, in this sense, is not an enemy, but an ally, a force that, when acknowledged and embraced, becomes a source of profound personal and emotional growth. Fear is a powerful emotion, one that can hold us back from reaching our true potential. It often acts as a barrier, preventing us from stepping outside our comfort zones and exploring new horizons. Whether it's the fear of failure, rejection, uncertainty, or change, this emotion can confine us, keeping us trapped in a life that feels safe but limited. Yet, when we choose to overcome fear, we unlock a world of freedom and possibility. The act of facing our fears not only liberates us from the constraints we've placed on ourselves, but it also opens doors to opportunities we never imagined were possible. One of the most significant ways fear limits us is by creating a mental prison. When we are afraid of failing, for example, we avoid taking risks or trying new things. We stay within the boundaries of what we already know, where we feel confident and in control. But this reluctance to take risks prevents us from growing. It confines us to a small, predictable world, where the possibility of success is as limited as the possibility of failure. By succumbing to fear, we deny ourselves the chance to experience life in its fullest sense. Overcoming fear, however, breaks down these mental barriers. It gives us the courage to step into the unknown, where real growth and freedom are found. Freedom, in this context, is not just about the absence of physical constraints. It's about the freedom to live authentically, to pursue what truly matters to us without being weighed down by the fear of judgment or failure. When we overcome fear, we give ourselves permission to take bold steps toward our dreams and goals. This kind of freedom allows us to explore who we really are, what we truly desire, and what we are capable of achieving. It frees us from the expectations of others and, more importantly, from the limitations we've imposed on ourselves. Consider someone who has a deep passion for art, but is afraid to share their work with the world because of the fear of criticism. They might keep their art hidden, never pursuing their passion fully, and live in a state of quiet dissatisfaction. But the moment they decide to push through that fear and showcase their art, they unlock a world of possibility. Maybe they receive positive feedback, or maybe they face criticism, but either way, they've opened the door to a new experience, one that allows them to grow as an artist and as a person. The act of overcoming fear leads to personal liberation and the potential for success. One of the most transformative aspects of overcoming fear is the realization that fear is often an illusion. We build up fear in our minds, imagining the worst possible outcomes, when in reality, the things we fear rarely come to pass. Even when they do, they are seldom as devastating as we imagined. The fear of failure, for instance, is often worse than the failure itself. Once we face the fear and push through it, we often find that we are far more resilient and capable than we thought. This realization is incredibly empowering. It teaches us that fear is not something to be avoided, but something to be faced and conquered. Each time we overcome fear, we expand our understanding of what we can achieve, and in doing so, we unlock more and more of our potential. The connection between overcoming fear and unlocking possibility is evident in all areas of life. Professionally, those who are willing to face their fears often experience greater success. They take risks, whether by starting their own business, pursuing a promotion, or changing careers. While these steps may involve uncertainty and the possibility of failure, they also carry the potential for tremendous reward. Overcoming fear in these situations often leads to new opportunities that would have remained out of reach if fear had been allowed to dictate decisions. The act of pushing past fear signals to ourselves and others that we are willing to grow, adapt, and take on new challenges, and this mindset attracts even more possibilities. On a personal level, overcoming fear leads to deeper, more meaningful relationships. Fear of vulnerability often prevents people from forming close connections. They may fear being rejected, judged, or hurt, so they keep their true selves hidden behind walls of protection. But by overcoming the fear of vulnerability, we open ourselves to authentic connections. We allow others to see who we really are, and in doing so, we create the possibility for deep, genuine relationships. These relationships are built on trust and understanding, and they enrich our lives in ways that surface-level connections never could. By facing the fear of vulnerability, we unlock the possibility of love, friendship, and personal fulfillment. Fear also prevents us from experiencing the world fully. The fear of travel, for example, may keep someone from exploring new cultures, meeting new people, or gaining new perspectives. The fear of trying new things may limit someone's experiences to the familiar and the routine. But when we overcome these fears, we open ourselves to a vast array of possibilities. We begin to see the world not as a place filled with danger and uncertainty, but as a place brimming with opportunities for growth, learning, and adventure. Each new experience becomes a stepping stone to further freedom, and each new challenge we face builds our confidence in our ability to handle whatever comes our way. In overcoming fear, we also cultivate a mindset of possibility. Fear tends to close doors in our minds, making us focus on what could go wrong rather than what could go right. When we face our fears, we shift our perspective. We begin to see challenges as opportunities and setbacks as lessons. This mindset of possibility allows us to approach life with curiosity and optimism. Instead of being held back by fear, we become driven by a sense of what could be. Every fear we overcome widens our horizons, making room for new dreams, new goals, and new achievements. In conclusion, overcoming fear is one of the most liberating and empowering things we can do for ourselves. It frees us from the constraints that fear places on our lives and opens the door to infinite possibilities. Whether in our personal relationships, professional endeavors, or daily experiences, facing and conquering fear allows us to live more fully and authentically. It transforms fear from an obstacle into a stepping stone, leading us to a life of freedom, growth, and boundless opportunity.